welcome to VERAfied Podcast, where truth is the only rule. This is the first of 25. Can you imagine, guys? This is the first episode of a brand new year. Time just moving quick. I'm your host, John Mafnas. We got the legend, Brandon Vera, Chief Franklin Arriola, and from the scene,
how you guys doing?
Producer extraordinaire, Kyle Hocog from Next Level Media. We are sponsored by Truth Apparel. And guys, we have a packed show. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest from the newly minted 38th Guam Legislature. We have the chairman of the powerful Committee on Finance and Government Operations, Senator Chris Duenas. Welcome, back.
Hey, let's tell the truth, baby.
Thank you for coming on.
You came to the right place. So you know what we're going to do, Senator? First, I want you to just feast your eyes on the fact we're probably going to end up changing the name of the show, but just should be Four Bald Guys, right? At least for this episode. Kyle still has hair, so we can't call him Five Bald Guys.
I know, right?
But
not yet.
Chairman, Senator Chris, my brother Bobek, we're going to get right into it. The verified Q&A. You're going to get questions from Brandon and the chief, and we're just going to get right into it. Chief,
right
on. You want to start us off?
Let's go. Johnny, you're welcome, Senator Chris. Congratulations on your inauguration, which was yesterday morning. In charge of the all-powerful. Now, Senator, can you just, for the record, clear exactly what your committee is? Because Office of Finance and Budget, Ways and Means. What is it called in your tenure?
Yeah, so we are the Office of Finance and Budget, and really, it goes back and forth sometimes, depending, I guess, on political machinations or those who might be in office. But essentially, it really is the committee that holds I believe, the greatest responsibility in terms of the legislature when it comes to meeting the needs of the people. Really, let's just go and call it for what it is, right? It's really the exercise of the power of the purse. That's the bottom line. That is the ultimate power of the legislature. Some will tell you, some legislative scholars and people that look at the tripart government and kind of look at the way it's put together, is the legislature actually is, if you really think about it, the most powerful branch of the government in terms of the three branches. And in that branch, really, it lies in the appropriations capabilities. The legislature, they set policy, they pass a budget, they pass laws, and it's up to the governor to execute those laws, and the executive branch. And of course, when there's problems in that arena, from time to time, we go to the courts sometimes and have things settled. But essentially, really, everything moves on the ability of the government to be able to finance agencies and departments to provide services to our people. So, we got to get that right. And I think sometimes we've got it right in the past. Sometimes we haven't. But there's a lot of scrutiny, and really, it's a very intense committee, simply because of the fact that people's lives, rely on what we do, particularly in the key areas, guys. And I know, you guys live this every day, so fire away. But when it really comes down to it, let's talk about where the rubber meets the road, right? It really comes down to our public safety, our education, and our healthcare, because these are really the three legs of the stool that are the true deliverables to the people. There's a lot of nice to haves. We fund our tourism industry in terms of making sure that we have marketing capabilities, which is really big because of the fact that we gotta keep money rolling in as well. We got to make sure we have a good economic base. We fund other services as well, like Department of Youth Affairs, taking care of troubled youth and trying to do youth development. And of course we have things such as our prisons, to make sure that we keep those who, commit crimes behind bars and out of society until they can be rehabilitated, or maybe some aren't, and they just got to stay there. And that's what we got to do to keep our people safe. So really, everything starts and ends, in my opinion, with the Office of Finance and Budget. So guys, the way I look at it is really fundamentally in the legislature, there's three main functions. And of course, one, I think the key one is passing the budget for the government of Guam so that we can operate a democracy, we can operate an island that provides proper services to its people. The other, of course, is we confirm appointments by the governor, and those are for various boards and the like, and agencies, key agencies, and then of course we pass laws. Those are really the only three things that we have to do. Sometimes several senators go out and they love to, issue resolutions, do proclamations. I mean, those are all nice things to do. Say happy birthday, but the fact is those are the functions, and so my job and my role now is going to be to ensure that we budget properly and that we provide services to our people.
Okay.
Senator, I'm going to jump right in there. You said co-equal branch, and I tell you what, I want to agree with you, but I will agree with you when you guys get paid equally. Ever notice the executive branch, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but when somebody proposes a rate increase, oh my God, nobody has any problems paying all of those, employees, and even the cabinet, and then judges, right? The judicial side. And again, I'm not saying those guys don't deserve it. I'm saying, how come you guys haven't gotten a raise since the 1800s?
Can I jump in here, John, on that before we let the senator? Because this is a big thing of mine, Senator. And full disclosure, I didn't talk to anybody about this, but I have a pretty strong feeling about that as well. And a couple of legislatures ago, the senators were really browbeaten by the public about you're $55,000, $75,000. Oh, that's way too much. That's way too much. Well, the way I look at it, you really get what you pay for, and I think at $55,000 a year, I mean, for anybody, that's going to be a difficult way to make a living. But the senators have such an important position, and I'm also for a part-time legislature. My recommendation would be to keep their salaries at $55,000 a year, go to a part-time legislature, and bump the number from 15 to 21, and let's go with that. That's just a personal preference of mine, Senator. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, certainly. This is a great forum to talk about this because we can go into it in depth, right? So first of all, let me just say I agree with you, Chief, on the fact that, let's go one direction or the other. If we are really not going to pay professional salaries for individuals who are going to set aside their time to go in and do this job and take on this responsibility, especially in light of, no question about it, our government now is paying very highly compensatory salaries. When we talk about the governor's cabinet, when we talk about, executive agencies, when we talk about autonomous agencies, I mean, many of times just keeping employees in line agencies because the are paying at a super high level. And so, they have to attract talent and keep talent. But let's bring it back to the legislature, right? I think really what it comes down to is this discussion should be spurred on exactly what you said. It's either have a reasonable amount of money that would be equivalent to a service of a part-time legislature. But, let's clear one thing up real quick. A lot of people misunderstand what a part-time legislature means. There's a difference between a part-time legislature and part-time senators. See, the legislature itself, if you look at other jurisdictions where the legislature is, the servants are part-time, the legislature itself is actually a professional legislature. It's classified employees. It's individuals who really have the ability to recognize bills, to very, very professionally trained to do this in terms of government operations in the legislature. So essentially, that is a way a lot of legislatures that are part-time senators operate. So essentially, it's either we go that direction or we do then raise the salary to attract better talent. And I'm not saying that the group that's there, and myself or others, aren't talented. And
of course.
I just think we're seeing now a real diminishing of individuals interested in going out and running for senator. And I think that the compensation and the salary level has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Who you, Brandon?
I'm very interested in the fact that the senator, you guys now, like you said, you hold the purse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of that, and the fact is, since since the red tidal wave came over the entire mainland, do you feel a bit more empowered now since the Doge committee seems to be on fire everywhere, on TV, online? Their presence is on the phone. Do you feel a little bit more empowered to be able to balance the budget, to be able to fight for the things that maybe you wouldn't have been able to fight for before? You know, like everything's getting called out. That I think the bill was 1,500 pages and it got chopped down to 100 something pages. I think as somebody that would be in the realm, does that give you confidence? Does that boost your morale? Like, does the office get I want to say hyped about something like that?
It does, Brandon. But here's what we have on Guam right now. Unfortunately, through good economic times based on our military buildup, on situations where recently, as recent as 5 or 6 years ago, there was a change in Congress, under the Calvo administration, and Chief can talk about this, how we used to issue out earned income tax credits, which is a federal government program, but the local government paid for it out of our own tax coffers. It was one of the things that governors in the past, particular under Governor Calvo as well, who really, got our economy back on track during his term. The bottom line is we always had to struggle with that, though. So there have been windfalls into our government, where our government's in a little bit of a different situation, where right now we're fighting over how to appropriate surpluses. So I definitely know that there's a lot of room for reform in government. There's a lot of room for being able to make sure that areas not of the key concern, like I talked about, like our hospital, like our police force, like our schools. There's definitely I think that with us is to refocus and to make sure we fund those critical areas at the proper levels. And also the other thing too is that I think with the kind of revenue that we have coming in right now, going back to tourism, the tourism, community in terms of businesses and investors and people, this is really a critical situation now. I look at this legislature and I'm hoping that my colleagues will agree with me. Some of that money in surplus needs to be invested, which means reinvesting in tourism and making sure my Doge is, let's go in there and start to work with Gita on maybe giving some tax break incentives for some of these businesses in Tumon to write off some of their improvements, to work on their properties and do some of these things to bring that, to fruition, things up and allow for businesses that have been struggling, that are just about to go out of business. Maybe they're gonna be able to survive and bring more beauty and efficiency to our tourism industry, so that we can continue going forward with that. There's other things. We're talking about some airline incentives possibly, because right now the latest tourism forum that we had basically demonstrated that the seat capacity really a lot has to do with competition for seats in the region. And sometimes if you can give some airline incentives to make sure the seats, stay subsidized, but then also that you can increase a seat capacity coming into Guam, that's going to be a big issue too. So there's a lot of things I think that we need to do differently. And especially, are we going to go in and look at our taxes in terms of reducing possibly the BPT? That should be on the table too. I think that really it's kind of, I look at it for me as a get to work office of finance and budget. So where I'm starting is I'm going to start with audits, working with the public auditor, and get some of these things ironed out in terms of where we're having troubles in terms of accounting for our cash. Bringing Department of Administration, we invested $14 million in a financial management system that I understand is not working well. That's a huge problem. So yeah, I think our Doge is a little bit of a different approach here, though. While we continue to have surpluses, I think with us, it's more about, are we spending the money in the right areas? Are we investing and reinvesting in our key markets? And are we, making sure that also we can look at our tax structure and maybe start reducing taxes where needed?
Chief?
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Senator. Wow. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chief, I think you were right, starting with Senator Chris Duenas as our first guest of the year. This is a solid operator, this dude.
I love how he used Doge. My Doge is this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, we look at the federal government. I mean, look, let's just cut to the chase, right? It's a monster. I mean, there's so many things that have to get under control. And I'm not saying we're not a monster too, but my perspective, and I think what a lot of us senators, like when we went, the Guam Young Professionals put on a great forum, over at the Chamber of Commerce. And we had a lot of, young, strong, entrepreneurs that wanted to see what we were about. And one of the things I talked about in another investment is, in my opinion, while the University of Guam is a very good value in terms of colleges, we still have a population that doesn't have a lot of resources. And a lot of these kids that are trying to go to school, they're working jobs and everything else. And so to me, tuition increases are off the table. So we got a University of Guam right now that is just, they're exploding at the seams. They got 4 construction projects underway.
Yeah.
Brandon, the truth is we are now producing homegrown engineers on Guam at a very high rate. And, and GPA gets most of them as they graduate. We got a friend, Joe Duenas, who's in the private sector, who's just killing it in terms of government contracts regionally, federal contracts, and all those contracts are building schools, hospitals, all kinds of new infrastructure throughout Micronesia and Guam. They just landed the contract to be able to put together the plan to build Simon Sanchez. But those guys are constantly looking for engineers. They're constantly looking for project managers. They're constantly looking for people. And the University of Guam is the incubator for that, baby. So then we got nurses. Now we got our nursing program that's expanding from 30 nurses annually to 50, and they're trying to go bigger. And they've built a new building. That takes supplies. That takes additional staff, resources. They've asked for $4.5 million appropriation. I'm going to work my butt off to make sure they get that within this fiscal year and then solid for the next fiscal year. Because, one of the things I've heard, and you guys are business folks, one of the things, and maybe even our brothers up in NMI, one of the things I've heard is one of the hardest things is not only the government red tape and the things that the islands sometimes have to do to turn away business, it's a workforce. You got to have a skilled and educated workforce. So the bottom line is we know GCC is kicking it. I mean, they're doing boot camps for different levels of operations, like bus drivers, different things that are
tradesmen,
folks, right? But the bottom line is the higher level educated individuals, like I said, like our engineers, like our nurses, like the federal jobs that are coming to Guam now, they require a lot of competency, and we're losing those jobs to dependents of military and things like that. And our people should be having what we call those mortgage jobs of $70, $80, $90, $100,000 federal jobs. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. We need to rethink how we do this and invest in a university that says, look, that's a drop in the bucket in terms of the 4.5 million that you're going to, invest here, because we're turning out individuals that are going to provide a tax base for your island, for our island, through a workforce that's really going to just continue to burgeon. And that's another thing, guys, this and what you're doing. Brandon, I'm despite the difficulties and stuff, and you said, no, Guam's my home, I'm here, right? The problem is others pulling out, right? So we got to hold our people here. And how do we do that? We can only do that if we provide opportunities for expansion and for jobs that are going to keep our people here because they can make a living here.
Senator, can I just jettison Johnny? Sorry to interrupt, because the senators talked about the three stools: education, tourism, and law enforcement. Education, and we can get back to the DOE side of the house. But Senator, I agree with you that the federal government, the jobs there, reboosting our economy, I think we'll take care of that, or it's doing fairly well these days. It's the criminal element on Guam, right? There's a lot going on, and you just introduced, passed, and signed into law your Maulik bill. Can you just for the listeners say, give us a background on that, and when you're completed with the description of it, I'd like to come back with some pretty tough questions on our law enforcement component here on Guam.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chief. The bottom line is that we have a massive drug problem on Guam. I'm going to attempt to deny that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, two of the key components to that really is interdiction, the ability to interdict, the ability to stop the flow of drugs into Guam. And then, of course, you got the distribution element and the criminal element because of those who are dependent, right? So the three pillars really of Maulik is, first and foremost, this bill now codifies that the people of Guam should be able to expect a minimum manpower requirement in our premier law enforcement department, which is our Guam Police Department. These numbers are going to probably freak out the people that are listening to our podcast that haven't really paid attention maybe to some of the minutia of the legislature and why I did this. Right now on Guam, we're lucky if we have 45% manpower, officer on the beat, officer on the street, patrolling our villages on a 24/7 basis in our precincts and able to really provide safety and security in our community. Maulik says enough is enough. You must have 70% minimum manpower requirements at all times. And if you don't, then that's what Maulik tells you what to do next in terms of the law enforcement community, right? So giving you some raw numbers real quick. 45% represents about maybe 265 officers. Maulik says it has to be 365, 100 more officers like immediately, because our 100% manpower requirement is 540 in terms of what a jurisdiction like Guam should have at all times for our size and our population. Okay, so we got that out of control, out of the way. So bottom line is Maulik should be operating right now, and I'm going to work on that now that we're in on this term. So what does Maulik do if you don't have that 70% manpower requirement? Well, then the director has to assemble all of his law enforcement agencies. And there's three co-chairs of this operation, which is the chief of police. It is the post-commission director for education and training to make sure we can, fast track people coming into law enforcement and cross-training throughout law enforcement to be able to do enforcement. And then the third one is our fusion center, which brings our federal component in to this operation. Now the chief of police basically has access. Because manpower is shorted throughout law enforcement, here's the key thing that will happen first. He can now pull in areas like special operations from DOC. He can bring in elements from the port and the airport. And he can also recall the guys who are detailed to the federal task force for any missions that they need to do to go out and interdict drugs when they start getting intelligence and other things. Basically, the reason why our premier law enforcement agency and their criminal investigation division and all those other divisions are short is because their manpower on the bottom is short. So where you used to have 20, 30 officers in criminal investigation division, other special enforcement divisions and others, you got 5 or 6 people because of the fact that you don't have the manpower on the bottom. So now they augment all their manpower to be able to go out now and do way more inspections, interdictions, working with customs, and stepping up the enforcement element at that level. The third thing, guys, and this is what I'm hoping to do. Governor Calvo, during his time, and I've brought on James McDonald to my staff, during his time, we almost got the high-intensity drug trafficking area designation. This only 36 states have this designation, as well as Hawaii has this designation outside of CONUS. We believe that because of what we've passed under Maulik and all this coordination with law enforcement and stepping up interdiction and fast tracking individuals coming into our premier law enforcement agency and getting manpower, we believe now we've been able to solve that critical element of why we were denied the designation before, and that was the coordination of the government of Guam and the full commitment from all agencies put together. So really, it's an all-hands-on-deck law enforcement tool, and it's a tool also that should give us a much higher profile on the federal level to bring resources in. Real quick, guys, ever since I passed that bill, almost every time I'm out to breakfast, having a drink, just shopping with my wife, I'll have a law enforcement person pull me over and say, hey, let me chat with you for about 5 minutes. Recently, a couple of days ago, I was having a lunch and I talked to a federal official afterwards, and he asked me to just give him a little bit of his time, right? He said, you're on the right track. So the biggest issue that you're going to deal with right now when Maulik gets stood up is now all the federal elements will be activated. He said the problem we have right now, without something like what you're calling for here, now you have a local federal equivalent of what we do in terms of how we share intelligence and how we're doing what we do. He said the next thing you got to do is when that meeting is convened, you need to sit down with the chief of police and make sure that all of those divisions, like up there at the Fusion Center, and make sure definitely even at the Post Commission, all of those individuals, you have to have at least 2 individuals in there that have security clearance level. Once you do that, you're going to get sharing of information, and you're going to find out a lot more that you don't know right now. But you needed to do this in order to make sure that you have this cross information sharing. Something that's not a secret, guys, and I'm going to tell you why this is so serious. Now, Guam is actually not just a destination for methamphetamine. We're actually exporting methamphetamine and other opioids.
In and out.
Dangerous, guys, and we've got to get control of this. And so the bottom line is everything else we talked about. You're absolutely right, Chief. Economic development, making sure that we have job opportunities, investing in education, investing in our tourism. All this stuff is really, really critical. But if we don't solve this crime issue, if we don't solve this drug issue, we are going to be continuing to be in big trouble. So that's one of the reasons why. So where did I go with this as well in terms of the new majority, right? So that's why I briefed public safety guy, Sean Gumatautown. He joined me in terms of making sure we have one key staff that's going to be coordinating Maulik's operation from the legislative side, and also preparing for the new application for the high intensity drug designation for Guam at the federal level. Guys, we think that probably within the first quarter or by summer, we will have reports coming out, because there's a reporting requirement under Maulik as well back to the legislature in terms of their establishment of Maulik, in terms of their cross coordination, of course, no intelligence, of course, but what they're doing and how things are moving, and also kind of some of the actions that are going on and the requirements that they have to be able to further, do the deed that they need to do.
You're watching the VERAfied Podcast with Brandon Vera, Frank Arriola, and our special guest today from the 38th Guam Legislature, Senator Chris Duenas. Senator Duenas, thank you for that. And again, congratulations. I'm glad Chief brought up Maulik legislation. We just have to hope that everybody takes this seriously. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So Brandon Vera earlier talked about the red wave, and it's been, an 18-year absence since the Republicans have had legislative control. So, you're one of the more seasoned lawmakers, but be honest with us. Any anxiety, any worries going into this term? This, if I'm not mistaken, Senator, is your first time in the majority, correct?
It is my first time in the majority, but I like to consider myself as being a very active senator in terms of even though I was in the minority. I've introduced bills that have been hard hitting, heavy lifts, bills on affordable housing, the Maulik bill, bills on controlling invasive species. One of the reasons why we have the Invasive Species Council and the investments that we have to fight and eradicate invasive species is because of bills that I've written in the past. Opportunities for education, like I've talked about in terms of scholarships. But so I consider myself prepared for this mission. Also, I was very fortunate to serve 8 years in the Camacho administration as Director of Youth Affairs, Director of Land Management, and also under the Calvo administration as a special assistant to Governor Calvo, as well as Guam Housing Corporation. So I have now 22 years combined executive and legislative experience. So sometimes I think all I can hope for right now is to make sure that we're hitting the ground running and we can keep the energy amongst all of our colleagues to really move quicker than we moved in the past to solve these problems. Like I've said, that's why I'm starting with audits. The public auditor has been amazing in terms of how he's been showing deficiencies in government and making sure that we're accounting better for the resources that we have. That's why I'm also going straight to Rev and Tax and to Department Administration to get them on the record in terms of how well they're doing in accounting for our finances and our resources. So I think once we lay the groundwork for that, we'll have what we need going forward into the budget session. I also One thing I like about working with friends on a podcast like this and people who I've worked with before, the truth, if you were here while Chief was Chief, you would never want to get a phone call from him in the Cabo administration saying, "Hey, you need to come down and see me in the office."
That sounds like a bad time.
If that was going to go down, half the time, if you were smart when you go down, you have that manila envelope with you that has that letter in it that says, "I want to spend more time with my family."
Yeah.
If he's got to tell you that you haven't been doing what you're supposed to do, right? But I say that to, I've had experience with individuals that know how to crack the whip, that know how to get things done, and I think really that's when I see my colleagues, I look at it like one of the things that our chief and a lot of the administration that I've worked for, it wasn't just your job, wasn't just your area. Your job was making sure that if somebody else needed your help, you went and did it. And so with the individuals that are coming in, I've been meeting with them anytime they want to meet. Like I said, the public safety chair and I have established a liaison between our offices to make sure that we get things underway. I'm going to be working closely with all of the new colleagues that have come in, and even several friends on the other side of the aisle who are, interested in getting some things moving forward as well. So for me, I take this job very serious, and the bottom line is I'm not afraid of work. And so I look at it as one of these things is, there's no time to look at other individuals that have come in that are new senators and basically say, well, and get over there and help them. Let your staff help them. Do what you need to do. Get them set up. Make sure that, you give them as much knowledge and experience as you can, because this is our majority. It's our majority to have to manage and to deliver to the people. The people have given us, a lot of new faces and individuals. And I also look at my role as being a mentor and making sure that our team is up and running and ready to get it done.
Thank you, Senator. Who you be? I want to get your thoughts and the senator's thoughts and chief's thoughts on, I don't know if he intended this to be this way, but the attorney general's put on some billboards to kind of make fun of maybe the less fortunate. Got a caricature of somebody panhandling. I think there's a big word that says "gimme" with a handout.
Yeah.
Who you be? Let's start with you, and let's go to the senator, and then with the chief.
Man, I understand the billboard. I'm the weirdo. I play devil's advocate, and then I work backwards, back from the dark side to the good side. So I understand his frustration with the panhandlers, and I understand the frustration of where the panhandlers come from, because I would say less than 5% of panhandlers are from Guam. And I think that's a big frustration for a lot of people.
Wait, Kuya, I just want to make, so you think they're actually being flown in here from outside and intentionally just kind of left to their own devices, being brought here to Guam?
I don't think they're being flown. I know they're being flown in. I know. They tell me they're from Oregon. They tell me they're from Hawaii. They tell me they're from California. Yeah. Oh, it's much nicer out here than XYZ. It's so nice here. Yeah. So it's a game that everybody's playing, and I think it's just more noticeable here because we're much smaller. And when you pass somebody 2 or 3 times, you start to take notice who they are, where they're from, and what village they could have been from, what family should be responsible for them. And if none of that matches up, they're not from here. How'd you get here? You've been saving long for your trip? So all of the common sense questions, it just puts it back where it came from. And while I understand his frustration, man, I'm a big
think the billboards are a bit much,
No, because people need to be
people's demise.
I like his billboards. You know what? Because once in a while, people need to be slapped in the face. Once in a while, people need to be slapped in the face to reality. So while I don't agree with them, I appreciate them.
Senator, you and Brandon and Frank have definitely slapped some people in the face. How do you feel about these billboards?
Who's that to? Me?
Yes, sir.
For you, Senator. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I look at it. I'll do a Brandon, and I'll kind of go in a couple of different directions, right? So the bottom line is let's be honest with ourselves. There are some people who absolutely have true needs and are down on their luck, and that might be, their meal for the day. I'm gonna tell you this right now, guys. When I go into my favorite store or whatever else, I know the suspects. I know who's lit. I know what's going down. I know who's gonna run around the corner, after they get the last $5 and they're gonna score, right? I don't play that. I basically tell them, clean up, do the best you can, my brother. But I got a pretty good discernment on when I see somebody that I know probably needs some food, or they got kids that they need to take care of. And what I always do when I give, I always say this. I'm not judging you, my friend, but I'm telling you, I pray that you use this money wisely because I work hard for it. But I want to help you if you need help. Now, here's where I want to go with this. I'm going to break news with you boys here and see if you like what I'm talking about. I've been approached by several business people and people who have a really good heart but are concerned about this as well. So one of the things I'm going to do pretty soon when I go over and see my good buddy Tony Atta on the land committee and some others, we're going to get together with some of the public health committees and the substance abuse committee and the like. And I want to sit down with your Moral Land Trust. I want to see if we could try something out here. I have business people who say they will invest in building an open air area with a nice roof, with concrete floor, restrooms, showers, couple of cubicles and things that we can do, training, counseling, different things. And I'm going to see if we can do a public-private partnership on a piece of property, a couple of acres.
Wow.
And then we can mandate hours whereby we can get an enforcement transportation element that would say, if you don't jump on the bus and go here to be processed and to see what we can do for you, the bottom line is that we're going to have law enforcement tell you can't do this here. Yeah. And so the bottom line, I'm going to see, especially in the night hours when we have people sleeping next to buildings, people who can be dangerous, things like that. It's going to be probably controversial. I'm going to toy with it, but I think we could possibly do this. And I think we could start to turn the tide on this issue. The government is not going to tell you that they're going to take you to a place where they're going to solve all your problems. But they're going to have hours of operation whereby you're going to have a central location with some cots and a place to where it's managed and secured, where you go and you can be for a while to get a hot and a cot and a shower and see what we can do to get you back on your feet. And that's the way that's the most effective way that I see that we can do enforcement, to where we're not just making somebody run from Wendy's to Denny's to GPO to whatever and try to get a handle on this issue. I think I think also what we could come up with here is we could start getting better information on, who these people are, how they got here and what it is. Maybe we're going to have some conversations with some of these governments and some of these other places where we find out that, hey, look, we're going to repatriate. and
everyone's doing it.
And you're going to handle this. So those are just some of the ideas, but I think we have to step it up, because let's be honest with ourselves, guys. We cannot have this problem just like the meth problem. We cannot have this stuff get out of control, because it hurts. It hurts the face of the way our island is and looks. And I believe there's enough within us and enough resources to tackle this at a level to where we can get it under control. And those are my thoughts on it.
Chief, how do you feel about the senator's proposal?
Well, a couple things. Let me ask that question first, because we do the weave here, right? Senator, it's called the weave. It's called the weave. Donald Trump does the weave. You throw in some ideas here, there, then you come back to the main idea. It's called the weave. Donald Trump does the weave. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little weaving myself. So, Senator, your point is excellent. Triple Ps are wonderful. As you know, a lot of the local companies on Guam, born and raised here, we all want to help. So they will help. I think that's a great idea to give them a shelter, an opportunity, potentially work with the the Guam Homeless Coalition. I know there's a government agency. I just know the guy, Rob Sanagasi, and he's running it on behalf of the government for the homeless people, right? So, everyone needs to work together in that area, number one. Number two, I want to kind of come back to the question of the billboard. And Johnny, you're a master marketing guy. You understand how things work. And there's many ways to communicate a problem or a message, right? And I agree. I'm empathetic to people who say, that was kind of cold-hearted. You don't really understand. You don't empathize with their plight. Well, no, I think we all do. It's been going on for 35, 40 years. I remember the first time I came across the whole crack, meth, ice thing was back in the early 90s. And one of Brandon, you mentioned sometimes people need a slap in the face. I think this is part of it, right? I think Doug Moylan, frankly, is tired of this, just like many of us are. It's been going on for 30 freaking years. I mean, what haven't we learned from 30 years ago that if you smoke this stuff, you're instantly addicted and you're in a spiral downhill? I mean, I think most people should know that. So there's an issue there. Number one. Number two, one of your colleagues, Senator Chris Malfunction Barnett, and I thought about some of the stuff, the pranks that he does when he calls his people, right? And he's funny, right? The lady's trying to sell the pit bull or not sell the pit bull.
Right.
But he interviewed, some panhandlers on the side of the road, and it was funny, whether we like it or not. And so, if it's Malfunction as a comedian brought that to attention, right? Doug Moylan is doing the same thing. You may not like or disagree with the vehicle that he's using, but he's trying to draw attention to some of his problems. And I'll tell you, Senator Chris, we talked about you're a senator. You're not a police officer with a badge. You're not the chief of police, but because you know this is a problem, you got all your research together, you passed this law, and you just explained very clearly and very effectively, here we go with that. But Doug Moylan is at the other end. He's got to prosecute all these people, and he sees the same challenges. So he's just trying to draw attention. Hey, guys, which from a marketing standpoint, John, you'll agree with me on this, that regardless if that guy is a caricature and he's doofy and he got the gimme thing on it, it's bringing attention to a very important problem. And for that, Doug Moylan is successful, regardless of. Yeah. And one final thing. Those of us who are empathetic to the homeless and the panhandling plight, we should all be, because that's the way Guam is. But I get this real strong sense of this whole virtue signaling of people. Oh, he shouldn't do that. No, we should do that. We should be tough for these people. We should give them what Chamorros have done when I was growing up, and that's tough love. And I think a lot of this is in a tough love kind of situation. So, Senator.
Yeah, so, the bottom line is, talking about the truth, let's just go to Dedido, McDonald's. There, behind all that intersection in those buildings, there are many villages that are popping up in terms of substandard housing, rotating of individuals coming out, either using their own sign or passing the sign to the other person to be able to continue to, listen, my mom, my dad raised me that when they whacked me on the butt, when they told me something, what they always told me? I didn't know it when I was a kid. They said, I'm doing this for your own darn good. And I'm doing it because of the fact that I love you. If I didn't love you, I'd let you do whatever the hell you wanted. And I'd laugh at you and I'd tell you you're a joke. And I'd kick you out of the house when you're 16 years old if I was able to. But that's not what we're doing here. And so, yes, so Doug starts the fire, and it's up to us to go in there and put the fire out. So the bottom line is that's what I'm saying. We've got to have another idea. But that's what I'm saying is, let's try something different to the point where we have at least one layer of solution. Like, say, for example, we bring, 50, 60 people up there, process, do what we need to do, because we can back that up with a law now that says you cannot loiter in public or private property. And after this hours, or if you're seen during certain hours, vans can literally come and pick you up and say, you're going to this location. If you don't cooperate with us, we're calling law enforcement. You're going to ride in a police car, or you're going to ride in this van. it's hard to do when you don't at least have something in place. So let's try something different, right? But the bottom line is, as a community, let's be honest with ourselves. If all we're going to do is say, well, those poor people, and not try to do something about it, we're not trying to help. We're just trying to make ourselves feel good. That $5, okay, man, I did my part, right? Roll on down the road. No, not necessarily. We haven't done our part as a community if we haven't pushed the envelope. So, Doug, I know it's hardcore and everything else, and you put those things out, but the truth is the truth. Now, nobody complained when he had the van with the door open and the lady with the baby in her thing, there, got the gun caught, got a dead guy laying on the ground, like, Method, I'm sorry. It's you or my baby, and today it's you, right? Yep. So the bottom line is what he was saying is, he's saying what we're talking about when we're talking about Maulik and so many other things that we need to do as a community, as a government, is, you're gonna get jacked up on that stuff. You better, but you're coming after my family and my children. Yeah, today's the day. I'm gonna say a rosary for you, but today's the day. So I think it works because it forces us to have these conversations and to do something.
To 100%. Do something. Yes, sir. Yep.
Thank you for tuning in to VERAfied Podcast. You've got we have our wonderful special guest, Senator Chris Duenas, from the 38th Guam Legislature. We're going to shift gears a little bit to something a little bit easier. Wink, wink. Not. Senator Chief Brandon, yes, you can tune in if you want and chime in. This is a doozy. Where do you think our new public hospital should be located? Kaboom!
Having a little trouble with my connection here. Did you say clean my camera?
Oops.
Yeah, this is a hard one, man.
I'll start first.
Head me in the right direction, Chief.
Well, okay, so I think I actually I addressed that a little bit in my I think my New Year's column, right? And that was, wherever we cite this dang thing, we need it now. Right. Number one. Number two, I would say, there's pros and cons for both locations, Senator, Tamuning or Manilo, but anywhere we put it, it's going to be a good location to me, right? You know this, right? It's the location whole thing. But because we need one so badly, either location will do. I think a lot of the infrastructure is already in Tamuning, so that would make a great location. But at the same time, it's also congested in Tamuning for a little island like Guam, right? Mm-hmm. If you drive through the ITC building around 2 to 6 in the afternoon, or from 7 to 9, right? Downtown Tamuning, it's pretty rough through there. And then if you cite it in Manilo, right? It's not congested at all back there. It just isn't, right? And then it can also serve as like a center for economic development, right? So in terms of location, I think wherever it goes, we'll be fine. But I think the biggest problem we have in Senator, you've been around for a long time, this, and you actually kind of touched on it a little bit when you talk the third stool of healthcare, right? The GMH. We are perennially underfunded by what? And you'll have the numbers better than I would. I think when I was at Guadalupe, it was like $30 million annually. Why? Well, there's a collection issue, number one. And number two, more importantly, because it's a community hospital, we cannot turn away patients. So we already have a financial shortfall, right? We operate annually on a financial deficit, or a shortfall, I should say. So I think we have to address that before we can even address the location. So I throw all those things out there because, again, like I said, we do the weed. And you do it too, Brandon. We all do the weed. So, Senator, back to you.
Well, I tell you one thing we're all not gonna do. We ain't gonna weave our hair because we ain't got none. So So here's
Very true.
I'm gonna throw out three things that I think are absolutely the truth. Right now, we're in a court battle. The Attorney General has taken this to court in terms of the legality over whether or not the governor expended funds properly.
Okay.
I think the first thing that the legislature and the governor need to agree on in order to take a step further on solving this is if there is already in place the operational and functional preparation of Manila, then give the Perez's back their property.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the Perez family gave that property to the government for the benevolent purpose of building a hospital to take care of our people.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I say that, guys, is not just because it's the right thing to do, but it puts this issue on a level playing field. Because now you have two pieces of private property.
Yes.
You're no longer talking about government property. And let it play out. Here's my third thing. This is not just the utopian me, this is the practical in me, because I think that there is a solution here. If there are not agendas that are built in. We need a hospital. A complex is a wonderful idea. It has a lot of weaving to do.
It sure does.
Because the bottom line is, it's going to take the federal government with resources, probably an agreement within the region to talk about the services from a complex to support the services that will be provided, the level of care and the medical arts and the things that are going to happen there. We don't have the population. We have a sick population, but we don't have the population right now in terms of insured and other mixes to be able to, I believe, support level. I think that there's a possibility his family can do whatever they want to do. They could probably enter into agreement. They could probably build their own hospital if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that the medical arts and the medical complex could be developed in Manila as well. Is that too utopian, or is that sound like it might even be a possibility?
I think it's a possibility, but I'll turn it over to Brandon for his thoughts.
I'm a fan of that utopian idea. I think in a perfect world, we would have one in Tumon and one in Manila. But the question would go back to exactly what everybody was talking about earlier. How do we staff them?
Well,
that's the thing. Like, how do we staff them? And then when you brought up, Senator, I didn't think about the numbers for the population of the insured and the population numbers to be able to support the operation of a hospital like that. I didn't think about that either. I never ever considered that until you said that. Now I'm thinking like, man, how do you staff that? And then after you staff that, how do you maintain it without running a deficit like our community hospital? How, from a business standpoint, I'm thinking it's just running through my head now. I don't know. Location doesn't matter right now. We need to figure out how do we make a business model work?
So Brandon, I'm trying to jump in here because I want to answer that question while it's hot, right?
Yes, sir.
We have examples of that in terms of how we built schools.
Okay.
And the bottom line is what you have to do is you got to do a build, operate, transfer on these operations to where you still have the government responsibility. A hospital that's privately run and privately managed, but leased by the government, that runs with the efficiencies built into a business model and the like, so that you do this, but yet it's a hospital that cannot turn away also the indigent. Right. And they have to take care of them at the level that is a public level hospital. This is also now, I think, how you drive getting our basing for our reimbursement from Medicare and all these other government operations, because you have the accountability built into that and you don't lose it because of the fact that you have mismanagement of funds and the like. The government basically just every year makes an appropriation this operation
Exactly.
runs. It
Exactly.
takes care of folks. And so that's where I'm saying, go for it, people. Where's the hospital? And I think what might end up happening by that, either you'll have a smaller model hospital, maybe an 80, 90, 100 bed in Tamuning, and you might have a complex with a hospital capability in Manila, to where this thing just works itself out. But I think the key to it is you take the property out of the government hands, because now you don't have this argument of one is government and one is private. They're both private properties now.
I love it. Yes, sir.
What do you think?
That makes sense. Thank you, Senator. That was even in a perfect world, that would be awesome, because the one in Tumon could literally be the specialty center, like all specialty, all heart surgery, all surgeries could be in Tumon, like specialty care. And then, like you said, the big complex could be over in Manila. That's in a perfect world. In a perfect world, yeah, that would be nice. Were you gonna say something, Chief?
I think the private property drives the issue.
Well, I agree with you. I tend to agree with you in that regard, and that's fine. You let the marketplace. I was involved in the GRMC development pre-construction, right? I was working with Pete Scrow on that, and they were just driven 100% by the numbers, right? How many clients, how many patients per year, per bed, et cetera, et cetera. Then once they figured that, the traffic, right? Tamuni's gonna have set traffic. Maguilo's going to have set traffic. Then they go cost per person. Now, and that's why the people of Guam, the government of Guam, through the people of Guam, or the vice versa, have to come to an understanding that it's going to cost us something, right? Because we just do. We cannot turn away the indigent or the regardless of ability to pay. We hear that phrase in your oversight hearings, etc. So if that's the case, which is fine, we also have to, and this brings in the department, the COFA, the Compact of Free Association Agreement with the United States of America, and the FSM, and the rest of our island brother neighbors, to pay for their use of our facility, right? And I think that's where we need to be a little bit tougher in terms of what sort of reimbursements we get in that area. I think we can cover that. I think the location issues, like you said, Senator, will resolve itself.
Yeah. I always say this. People have asked me, how come Guam doesn't have universal health care? I said, we do. It's called GMH. The problem is there's no preventative care there. When you're there, you're getting ready to go see Jesus, right? So the bottom line is that the deal here is it's subsidized no matter what. But who do you want that to be in the hands of, right? That's why when you go back to the public-private partnerships that we have with schools, yeah, they have some deficiencies and they get some demerits from public health and like that. But that's something they turn around in a couple of days. They're not making a month and 2 months plans to reconstruct areas and break walls down and change doors and everything else. I mean, they're basically, okay, you got 10 demerits for us, come back in 48 hours and we'll have her done, right? But our kids that go to those schools every day, the room temperatures are 78, you know what I mean? The lunch is on time, the grass is cut, the building's painted, the science class has science stuff, so the bottom line is that it really, I'm not a government basher, but I will just call it for what it is and tell the truth again. The government is crap at doing anything when it comes to maintaining and operating structures and operations of those structures. You need to get out of that. You need to get out of the management of it, and you need to pay the bills and hold those bills being paid accountable for.
Accountable, yeah. I
agree
with you 1,000%. Triple P.
Thanks for the easy question there, Monster.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, anybody's tuning in, you've got the VERAfied Podcast. You're either watching or listening. I'll just tell you, you got these three equally genius guys, equally bald genius guys. We have the legend, Brandon Vera. We have the Chief, Franklin Arriola. And our special guest today, as we wind down this amazing first of 25 episode, we have the great Senator Chris Duenas. Bobek, we're coming to a close, man. This is how much fun we've had. But I tell you what,
Too easy.
we have this great fun. It's the end of the show, and we call it the VERAfied Top 5. In this case, we're going to do top 3. And I'm
Okay.
going to ask all of you. We're going to start with you, Senator Chris Duenas, and then go on to the legend Brandon, and end it with Chief Frank. Top 3 resolutions for 2025.
Oh man, I have to live up to these things now, man.
That's funny. Chris
You're on
right now
record,
is saying,
Senator.
I said easy. It's not
Okay.
easy.
I tell you what, man. I mean, if I can put in more time, I'm gonna put in more time. This opportunity in a majority. I wake up in the morning, ready to rock and roll. My wife does 14-hour days, so there's no reason why I can't do that as well. When I'm talking about medicine in the hospital, it's my wife, my heart. That's why I know so much about what's going on up there. In order to be around for a little longer, because I now have a brand new minted grandson, the beautiful Miles.
Miles.
Congratulations, Senator. Yeah.
Just turned 9 months. I'm gonna go see him in May. So yeah, I'm gonna have to work on the health. I'm really gonna have to, buckle down, cut down on the carbs, get my motor running again. I've got to cut some weight, and I've got to make sure that I take good care of my health. My doc's on my butt, and the wife took care of me. She got me a Garmin watch.
Yeah.
Told me I didn't sleep too well last night, so I got to work on some stuff. And there's several other things I need to do. And the third thing in that vein, you guys, really is, man, this year, I got to concentrate equally, though, as much as I have, and I want to put in time at work. I got to concentrate on my family, man. I got to make sure that I'm doing more than I was doing before. Got to make sure, pay a lot better attention to mama and her needs, and basically just making sure, our kids are pretty much grown now. And so they're doing their thing, but we're still helping them along and everything else. But I think now, as we get into our older age, it's more about being more about taking care of each other and looking out better for each other. I think if I pull those 3 things together, along with my constant intercession and prayer to God, I think this can be a great 2025.
Beautiful, Senator. That's great. Professor Brandon, what say you, Kuya?
So I saw this. Let me share this. I saw this meme about 2025, and it said, okay, we're all just going to walk into 2025 real slow. Everyone's going to play real nice. And then we'll just see how this year goes. Okay, everyone? So I really don't have any resolutions. I'm just looking to do more of. I'm looking to be of service more to people that need help. I'm looking to put more smiles on people's faces, including my family. I'm looking to make people realize dreams that they never had. That's what I want to do. Continue on for 2025.
Right on.
That's beautiful.
Especially the young ones. Thanks for what you're doing with the young ones.
Thank you, Senator.
Absolutely.
Thank you. They're amazing.
You're teaching, Professor. I mean, that's just amazing, man. I think you're doing it.
So,
Chief.
it's.
Go ahead, Kuya. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Chief. Go ahead, Chief. I'm sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
Chief, it's hard to follow these 2 monsters, but how about you?
Yeah, it is very difficult. And I've never been one for resolutions per se, based on going from December 31st to January 1. I just, okay, if everyone's gonna do it, I guess I should do it too, right? But I think, and that's great. I'm not trying to crap on anybody in that regard, but I think and it has to do. Senator Chris, you're a little bit younger than I am, but when you get to be like my age, life has a different look, right? And so health. I got my own health issues, but I've been doing really good. I'm happy and I'm proud of myself for doing the things that I've been doing. I work out just about every day. I watch what I eat, so I'm good there. Spiritually, get good with God. I always say that. I always tell my kids that, it's important to have that spiritual component. And one thing that just kind of encompasses everything in kind of a very almost a cliche way is never give up on your dreams. And I think both Brandon and Chris have both kind of stated that. Because that's one thing, I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s. But that's one thing I have not and will not ever give up on my dreams. Dreams have changed. Goals have kind of changed a little bit, right? We kind of recalibrate here. Again, guys, I'm doing the weave, right? We all do the weave. It's the weave.
Here,
it's
there.
the weave. It's the weave, right? So, just never giving up on my dreams, because each day that I get up, I've already got goals set, and I go after that, right? That I shorter term, longer term. Each day I go to achieve all those little, and it can be just little stuff, like getting up at 5:30 in the morning versus 6 o'clock in the morning, right? To get in that full 5K versus just like a 2-mile walk, right? Kind of thing, right? So all the little things, they add up. Instead of ordering, a cheeseburger, what's it? A double quarter pounder cheese deluxe from McDonald's, go and have some raw broccoli and some sashimi, right? Something like that, right? So yeah, just and that's kind of advice for everybody. Never give up on your dreams. Always chase those dreams every single day. That's it, Johnny.
Gentlemen, that was excellent. Senator Chris, I hope you had fun. Yeah, there was an amazing first show of the year. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing all that amazing knowledge.
I had a blast, man. And I tell you, this format rocks, man. You can just roll out what you need to say, and you're not worried about sound bites. You can lay it down, and man, you guys doing a good job, man, and keep it up. I look forward to checking out what's coming up in the future.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could,
podcast is brought to you by Truth Apparel. Chief, we got to get our brother Chris uniformed.
Lock them up. Consider it done. But I did want to
wearing
say
that Brandon Vera brand on you there, Senator.
Yeah, I did want to say thank you very much to Senator Chris. A guy like him who's been he outlined his government experience, right? His resume, the 8 years Camacho administration, I guess 4 years probably at Cabo Tenorio, and he's been in the legislature for a number of years. That sort of experience, that sort of institutional knowledge is very important. I'm happy he was here to share it with us today. I learned quite a bit from him.
Yeah,
and
big insight.
That's what's important. He's got to be able to continue that on podcasts as well as on the session floor and throughout his day, to pass on that information to his colleagues, his new colleagues, as well as the younger generation. So it gives them context about how to proceed forward in making good laws, passing budgets, and holding other branches of government to account. So thank you very much, Senator. I really appreciate you being here today.
You got it, guys. Keep telling the truth.
Thank you, Senator.
Kuya B, any
Yes,
parting
sir.
words, my brother?
Be good to each other. Be good to everyone, even the people you don't know. And on the topic of what we're talking about today, no matter what your religion is, good or bad, make sure you keep trying to balance the checkbook of life. I love you all, and I'll see you soon.
Nice. We are out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hey,
Thank
man.
you,
Great
guys.
job, Senator Chris.
Hope you guys had
Thank
as
you,
much fun as
Senator.
I did.
I sure did.
Bye, Kuya JM. Thank you, Senator. It was good times. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kyle, up in the NMI. You're amazing.
Thank you, Quick Kyle.
Go. Thanks, brother.